Welcome to the Conscious Classroom podcast, where we're exploring tools and perspectives that support educators and anyone who works with teams to create more conscious, supportive, and enriching learning environments. I'm your host, Amy Edelstein, and I'll be sharing transformative insights and easy-to-implement classroom supports that are all drawn from mindful awareness and systems thinking. The themes we'll discuss are designed to improve your own joy and fulfillment in your work and increase your impact on the world we share. Let's get on with this next episode. Hello, welcome to this episode of the Conscious Classroom podcast. My name is Amy Edelstein. Since our last podcast, I have been immersed in all kinds of new worlds, and I'm going to share one of those worlds with you today. It's the amazing and a little bit frightening world of virtual reality education. Now, for some, the idea of virtual reality education, what's being called the Metaverse, is not new. Certainly it's been around for a good 6 years, and gaming has taken virtual reality to the next level, and a lot of software has been piloted and tested in the gaming world now to be released for higher education as well as K through 12 education. I had the opportunity to speak with Karen Alexander from XR Connected, one of the leaders in virtual reality education today. And in the conversation with her, she simply said to me with enthusiasm, unmasked exuberance, and finality, "It's coming." Now, it's coming, one, because the technology capabilities are already here, although they're in their early nascent phases and will be improved upon, I'm sure, quickly. Companies, the leader, Meta, formerly Facebook, is at the forefront of metaversities, an unfortunate acquisition of a name that had been used in this space long before to indicate overarching context. Now, if you feel queasy about the idea of Zuckerberg and his corporate conglomerate defining our overarching context, you are not alone, and I certainly am, and I want to bring out some of the concerns about that when it comes to education and creating shared and uplifting culture. But we'll get to that. Morehouse College has already run a full semester during the pandemic of virtual reality education. They were able to access anatomy labs and classrooms in the virtual space and provide their students with a phenomenal, immersive digital education. There are other universities very eager to get their foot in the door and to provide their students with a cutting-edge immersive experience through virtual reality. And billions are being planned and poured into this space. The horses are out of the gate and they are racing the sprint and the marathon. It's exciting, it's tantalizing, the possibilities are enormous. And I was exploring the possibility of bringing wellness education, mindful contemplation, awareness, systems thinking, context understanding, tools and exercises and practices and shared practices to the virtual reality space. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And certainly the idea of being able to provide a virtual reality experience to almost anyone who could buy a cardboard headset to use with their phone for $15 makes a primitive form of virtual reality a possibility that's very close. When we think about teens in need of conflict mediation to prevent arguments, fights, and gun violence, the idea of being able to connect in a virtual reality space and perhaps de-escalate are very attractive. The idea of being able to reach youth who are depressed and anxious and alone in the middle of the night so that they can come to a space and talk or journal or be guided by a mentor or a therapist could well reach a lot of individuals, not just students, when they need it, in ways that brick and mortar therapist's office or YMCAs just can't do. The potentials are exciting. What I'm most interested in is seeing, well, can we build in an artificial intelligence, an AI Yoda, a wise, insightful, kind, patient, and visionary mentor to orchestrate the space? Can we program AI to be able to deflect and divert selfish behavior, aggressive behavior, harmful behavior? Can we teach regular people who are neither aggressive nor selfish nor harmful to a degree that is antisocial, but who need to be trained to use their higher human capacities of compassion, love, vision, awakened wisdom, collective intelligence, to really go beyond a limited quality of relatedness that we currently share in our public spaces, especially in America. Nobody, as far as I know, at least no one with a big name or significant funds, is working on that contemplative avatar to really bring the qualities of awakened attention, trauma-sensitive approach, and the aspiration to really build an awakened world, an awakened culture, to share at levels of creativity, cooperation, sensitivity, and love, to bring about a kind of collective understanding, emergence, capacity, awakeness, and aliveness. That's what I would want to see as the context or mentor of a shared metaversity space or metaverse space. But right now, when I ask Karen, well, what are the concerns? What are the downsides? What are the programming? Where are programmers putting their attention? They're putting their attention on controlling the most deviant expressions in the metaverse. And while that needs to be done, it is unfortunate that the attention is being put more on policing and control. How do we kick people out? How do we track their IPs? How do we build barriers and shells around people so they're not assaulted in the virtual world? they're concerned about that, and rightfully so, because when people are able to go into a space more anonymously, they can transgress. But if we're not putting attention on our higher human capacities and figuring out how do we train 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds to really realize a level of humanity, but it's part of our potential. But if we're not investing in that and putting our best minds on that, we're not going to get it. That's not what's going to guide this new wild frontier. And we know where the social media frontier has led. Narcissism, mental illness, alienation, a sense of needing to be mediated all the time. I see students who increasingly tell me they have social anxiety. They don't like to connect with other people directly. They want to control the interactions, their environment, and in-person learning doesn't let them do that. Becoming more and more comfortable or enamored in a virtual space inevitably is going to reduce our comfort and familiarity with basic skills of relatedness, communication, problem solving, touch. All of the research shows that the thing that helps individuals survive an incident of violence or natural disaster, a traumatic event, a potentially traumatic event, is the quality of close and trusting relationship. A mentor, an individual who shows up at that time, who is caring, who says the right thing. And if we're developing educational environments where we're so dependent on the virtual world, while we may meet that individual or that avatar or connect, we'll never really know who they are. And that quality of relating through a constructed medium is going to impact our sensitivity, our sensibilities, and perhaps our very humanity. As I was told, this is coming. The horse is out of the gate. And the question of not if, but how quickly, not when, but who will be in on the early designs to help shape the values of this new educational frontier is one that currently is being decided by technologists and by capitalists, by those who have significant funds to invest for a return on their investment. Well, there's nothing wrong with making money work. Oftentimes, as we've seen, the principles guiding those big money pockets are not ones that are looking to create an enlightened society. So as I look to the future and consider how inner strength is going to work to really support as many teens as possible, to really to help uplift the educational conversation so that we're developing wisdom, stability, understanding of systems and large-scale forces, and understanding of the archaeology of ourselves, and understanding of cause and effect, I have to consider the brave new frontier of virtual reality. But as I look there, I have deep concerns that our use or sense of the inevitability of emergent AI technology is not being embraced with the level of care for our own human potential, our higher human potentials, that we need it to be. And I hope that in the months ahead, as I pursue this space and consider what's already happened, consider the possible, that I find the wisest voices in our world, or the ability to create collective spaces that tap into our collective intelligence so we can move and breathe and intuit and create at a depth and capacity that far exceeds any one individual, but is able to hold a space of profound trust, deep listening, open-heartedness, enthusiasm for the possible, and humility around our blind spots as a human family, so that we can truly create a heaven on earth, not just in the virtual education spaces that will become available and accessible to many very quickly, but so that those spaces become real academies to mold character and values, to mold vision and aspiration, to take the best of what we're able to do now in terms of our caring and our sensitivity, and to reach even beyond that. Because as far as we can see, in terms of what a truly wise awareness would bring to that virtual education space, we can only see at the level of our consciousness now. So we want to reach beyond that. We want to truly create or bring down or lift ourselves up, whichever direction the metaphor suits you, so that we can become an educational space that's not just teaching excitement and is not just giving students a gamification experience so that they grasp algebra and geometry and physics and the humanities and arts, but that gives students a sense that they are creating a collective future that we will all live in, their generation and their children's generation most of all. How can they create that future? Not in response or reaction to the lowest common denominator we see in the world now, but in a leap, a punctuated evolutionary leap beyond where we are now, that reaches in to the possibility of an evolution of our capacity for love, And that capacity can create a sense of connectedness with the moving and breathing shared noosphere, our biosphere, our earth and planet, the peoples and the plants and the species. And that through this virtual space, the principles of awakened culture, of restoration, of dignity, and kindness, and care, and sharing, and generosity, and a renunciation of our own self-serving motives could really be what populates that space. I know that in the city I live in Philadelphia, where this week saw tragedies, deaths of students from violence at several high schools, the need to envision something that's not just a healing of the pain, but of something that really takes us into a world that is just so much better than that for everyone, is an urgent need. And if AI and if the virtual reality space is coming, which it is, then let's make it infused with the urgent mission to bring about that higher order of relatedness now. And let's not leave it to chance. And let's not leave it to the forces of technology that so far have failed to educate our youth well when it comes to the ubiquitous social media platforms. Of course, there are kind and caring technologists. Of course, there are hundreds, thousands of corporations doing brilliant things with education and social connectivity. But what I know is what I see in the classrooms and the overarching influence of the most popular platforms of digital technology and social media today are having a detrimental effect on the wellness and the connectedness and the sense of care between our youth. I believe in the possibility. And I also know for those of us who recognize the starting gate point that we're at, I encourage you all to dive in and make your voices of care and vision not just heard, but as design agents for the world of virtual reality education that is here and seems to be coming in full force. So let's take a moment to allow ourselves to do a mindful awareness reflection, letting yourself sink into yourself, into that still, quiet pool of the heart. allowing your thoughts and experiences to settle. Noticing the contact with the chair you're sitting on. Noticing how the force of gravity hugs us close to the earth. Feeling supported and embraced by the wonder of gravity. And allowing our attention to release from the specifics we've just discussed, and just to open so that our attention is porous at the edges, open for new possibilities, while we're rooted and grounded. Attached to the earth. Feel your own sense of strength and solidity. Feel that experience of being centered exactly where you're sitting. And let us collectively wish for the happiness, balance, and harmony in our world and for all beings. For those we love, for the creatures we'll never see, for the forests halfway around the world, for our families and friends. And of course, especially for our students, our teacher colleagues, and for all of those embracing the noble responsibility to guide and educate and prepare for the future. Thank you so much. Until next time. Thank you for listening to The Conscious Classroom. I'm your host, Amy Edelstein. Please check out the show notes on innerstrengthfoundation.net for links and more information. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend and pass the love on. See you next time.